and explaining how it works. Then we'll look at how to create and save new Word documents. So when you're using Microsoft Word, if you're not already familiar with Microsoft Excel or PowerPoint, you may find the layout to be a little bit strange and different from what you're used to in other programs. You'll notice up here in the upper left, we have some tabs. We have the Home tab, the Insert tab, we have the References tab, and more. And whenever you click on a tab, what you see here changes. This part of the Microsoft Word layout is called the ribbon. And whenever you click on a tab, the ribbon changes to match the tab that you've selected. So the terminology we use when describing the Excel layout is we click on, let's say, the Design tab, and we get the Design ribbon. When you click on the Insert tab, you see the Insert ribbon. Now the ribbons are divided up in groups. So we have the Tables group, we have the Illustrations group, we have the Media group, etc. Now on some of the ribbons, the groups that are set up, for example, the font group here on the Home ribbon, are so packed with options and features that Microsoft could not fit all of those options and features visibly in the group on the ribbon. And in those cases, you'll see this little button here. So you see one here, you see one here, here, and in other places as well. I like to call these buttons launch buttons. The official name of these buttons is Dialog Launcher, but in my videos I'll just call them the launch buttons. When you click on a launch button, it opens up additional options and features that again couldn't fit in the space provided on the ribbon. So here we have all sorts of font options, we have advanced font options, text effects, and more. I'll cancel out of that. In addition to tabs, ribbons, groups, and launch buttons, you also need to be aware of some other layout features in Microsoft Word. Here in the upper left, we have something called the Quick Access Toolbar, and this is customizable. If you click this button here, you can customize what appears in the Quick Access Toolbar. We have the title bar. This is where the title of this document is displayed. And then over here in the upper right corner, we have the Close button. When you're done working in Word, or at least in this current document, you can click that Close button and the document will close. Here at the right, we have a vertical scroll bar that you can click and drag to scroll down the page. You can also use the button here to go down and the button here to go up. If you decide to zoom in on your Word document, you may also get a horizontal scroll bar down here. Speaking of zoom, down here in the lower right corner, we have a zoom slider. You can just click here on this bar, slide to the right. There you get the horizontal scroll bar. So I've zoomed in by dragging this to the right. You can zoom out by dragging it to the left. I'll just put it back at 100% for now. Next to the zoom slider, we have a few different views that we can use. This, by default, should be selected. It's the print view. So this will give you a pretty good sense of what your document will look like once printed. To the right of that, we have the web layout view. So this is if you plan to publish this to the web. This view may be relevant. To the left of the print view, we have the read mode. So this mode is particularly good if you just want to sit down and read a Word document. That may be the best view in that case. Next to that, we have a focus mode. Focus mode will try to block out any distractions so that you can focus on the text. If you want to get out of the focus mode, just tap Escape on the keyboard and it should take you back to print layout view. One other layout feature in Microsoft Word that I want to point out is rulers. Directly above my document, I have a horizontal ruler across the top. This helps me to understand, in terms of inches or centimeters, how physically wide the document will be when printed. And I have a vertical ruler as well. These rulers are also useful in other ways, and you can learn more about those in my other videos. We also have a search bar here at the top. And I can click in that search bar and do a search for Microsoft Word features, options, and also for help topics. So that can be very useful. So those are the most important and most common layout features in Microsoft Word. Let's now look at how to create a new blank document in Word. When you first open Microsoft Word, it takes you to this welcome screen where you can create a new blank document just by double-clicking here on this option. Notice that there are also some templates that you could choose from, and you can also click here to get more templates, including searching for online templates. But in this video, I'm going to focus on creating new documents and editing existing documents. So I'll just double-click here on blank document, and I get a brand new, completely blank Word document. Now, as you might have guessed, this white space in the center of the screen, that represents the document or the paper that will be printed or sent to someone when you're done creating your document. And you'll notice that I have a flashing cursor here in the upper left corner. If I want to start typing and adding text to my document, I can just use the keyboard to type in my first words. And wherever that flashing cursor is, that's where the text will be entered. Now, what if I wanted to add text down below? Microsoft Word isn't set up really for you to just click exactly where you want text to be entered. It's meant to be used as a word processor, as a way to create documents full of sentences and paragraphs. If you need to move down the page a ways, you can tap Enter on the keyboard and then resume your typing. Having said that, it is possible to add text just about anywhere you want in your document, even though that's not the default. The way you would do that is by moving your mouse to the place where you want to add text and then simply double-click. After double-clicking, you'll get a flashing cursor in the exact spot where you double-clicked, and you can start typing from there. When you need to delete text, simply notice where your flashing cursor is and then use the backspace key and/or the delete key to erase the text. You can also click and drag to select text that you want to delete and then tap delete or backspace. Next, let's look at how to save your document. And once you've added really any significant amount of information into your document, you really should do when using Microsoft Word. And to look at those, let's click on the File tab in the upper left. You can see that there's just a simple Save, and there's also a Save As. Now, the first time that you click Save, it actually switches to Save As. Because my document has no name up to this point, it's just been given this generic Document 3, Word is forcing me to save it as a specific file name, and also in a specific place. So I need to think about, where do I want to save this document? Somewhere on this computer, or do I want to save it online? In this case, I'll click on Browse, and I'll simply save this to my documents, and I'll give it the file name Hello There. I click Save, and I've successfully saved this document. From now on, if I want to do a simple save, I can just click on File, Save, and it will update my saved document. I can also do a quick save by clicking this button here. If you don't see that, you may need to customize the quick access toolbar. But if I wanted to create a second version of this document or save it in addition to my original location in another location, I would need to go here to File and Save As. So that's what you need to know about the Microsoft Word layout and how to create and save Word documents. In this next segment, we'll look at how to open and edit existing Word documents. When I'm in Microsoft Word and I want to open an existing Word document, all I have to do is go here to File, and this will bring up a list of recent documents. I could double-click on any of these documents to open them up and start editing them. In addition to these recent documents, I could also just click this Open button in the upper left corner, and then I could select the location of the document that I want to open. I'm going to click Browse. It opens up this dialog box, and then I can go to Documents. That's where I keep many of my Word documents. And this is a file I would like to open, so I'll just double click on that, and it opens up. Now, as I read through this document and look for edits that I may want to make, how can I navigate through the document? I can use this scroll bar here at the right to browse up and down the document. I can also use the scroll wheel on my mouse to scroll down and also to scroll up. If I identify a change I would like to make, I can simply click and my flashing cursor appears in the place where I clicked. I can then use the backspace key or the delete key to remove characters. I can also click and type to add text. Another way to navigate within an existing Word document is to use the keyboard. I can use the arrow keys on the keyboard to move down, to move to the right, left, and up. I can also use the page up and page down keys to quickly jump to the top of a document and to the bottom. Obviously, page up takes me up, and page down takes me down. Another important thing to be aware of as you edit your document is if you make a mistake, at any point you can go to the Home tab, Home ribbon, and here in the upper left there's an Undo button. If you click that, it undoes the most recent action. In many cases, you can continue to undo if you'd like. If you undo too many times, you could redo to bring the document back to the change you most recently undid. Of course, you can do the same exact thing with keyboard shortcuts. Control Z to undo and Control Y to redo. In this next segment of Microsoft Word for Beginners, I will teach you some tips and tricks for selecting text, as well as how to move and copy, and how to use the powerful Find and Replace feature. Quite often in Microsoft Word, you'll find yourself needing to select a word or a sentence or a whole paragraph, and then to maybe copy it or move it or format it in a special way. So let's look at a few tips for how to select pieces of your Microsoft Word text. Let's say I want to replace the word remembers with the word knows. I could click and drag to highlight the word remembers, and I could delete it and then type in the word knows, or with the word selected, I could simply type the word knows. But there's a better, faster way to select the word remembers. I don't have to click and drag from one end of the word to the other. Instead, simply double-click on a word in Microsoft Word, and the whole word gets selected. So what about the word document? Yeah. What about the word with? Yes, it worked. What about to? Yes, it worked. So just double-click on any word, it becomes highlighted, and then you can replace it with the word that you want to be there. Now, what if you want a whole paragraph selected? If you triple-click on a word, the entire paragraph will be selected. So now that I have this paragraph selected, what if I want to move it to the bottom of my document? Probably the fastest way to do this is to cut this paragraph from where it currently is, move the flashing cursor to where I want the paragraph to be, and then paste the paragraph. So in order to cut, first you need to have selected something, which I have, and then on the Home tab, Home ribbon, in the Clipboard group, you'll find a pair of scissors. That represents cut. So I can click the scissors to cut that paragraph, move down to the very bottom of my document, and I can click. If Word doesn't let me click in this spot, I may need to click at the very end of the previous paragraph, tap Enter on the keyboard, and now I'm ready to paste. Again, I'm going to go back to the Home tab, Home ribbon. In the Clipboard group, I have a Paste button. So I click Paste, and there is my paragraph. Now, it's also possible to use keyboard shortcuts to do the same thing. So having selected text, I could hold Control and tap X to cut, and then I could click or use the arrow keys to move the flashing cursor to where I want that text to be, and then Control V will paste in the text. Now, there may be times when you don't want to move a paragraph or a piece of text. Instead, you might want to copy it. In those cases, again, you select your text, then go up to the Home tab, Home ribbon, and here is the Copy button. Or you could hold Control and tap C to copy, then go ahead and click or move the flashing cursor to where you want the copied text to be placed, and then Control V is paste. Now, there's one other Microsoft Word technique and tool that you need to know about in this segment of the video, and that is Find and Replace. This document that I'm working with is a 3-page document. But imagine, instead of a 3-page document, what if I had a 500-page manuscript for a novel or a book that I want to publish? And then what if I decide that I want to change the name of one of my characters? Or maybe let's say, what if Microsoft decides to change the name of this program? Instead of calling it Microsoft Word, maybe they change it to Microsoft Wordy. That would not be a good decision, but if they made that decision, this document would be obsolete. It would be using the wrong name for the program. How could I fix that? In a 3-page document, it's not a huge problem. But in a 500-page document, that would take days of work to update all of the text. Fortunately, we have a fantastic tool built into Microsoft Word. You'll find it by going to the Home tab, Home ribbon, here in this editing group. And for you, this might look a little different. Because of the screen resolution that I have on this computer, Microsoft Word can't fit all of the options in the space provided. So it might look a little different for you, but regardless, you should be able to find the editing group, and I'll click, and notice that there's a Find option, which is very good. But even better in many cases is Replace. So if you select Replace, you can type in what you want to find. So I want to find Word, and I want it to be replaced with Wordy. Now, before I perform this action, I'm going to click here on More so that you can see that there's some other great options that you can use. For example, I only want this change to happen if the word is capitalized. So I want to match case. Also, I want to find whole words only, not partial words. And there's some other options I could choose here as well as here, but I'm happy with these selections, and so I'll move up here and click Replace All. Microsoft notifies me that it's completed the action. We made 15 replacements. So I click OK, and I can X out of find and replace, and now you'll notice that every instance of the word word has been changed to wordy. Here's another example. Here's another example. So in this segment of the video, you've seen some tricks for how to select text in Microsoft Word. We've looked at how to copy, cut, and paste, and we've looked at the find and replace tool. If you'd like to learn more about these topics, please watch my other videos that are specifically on those topics. I have a video on Microsoft Word editing tips and tricks, and also find and replace. This next segment of Microsoft Word for Beginners, the complete course, will focus on formatting characters and paragraphs. I can easily change the formatting for this paragraph, for example, first by triple-clicking anywhere in the paragraph to select it, and then I can go to the Home tab, Home ribbon. In the font group, I can make some quick formatting changes. I could change the font size, and I can do that either by clicking and then selecting the new font size, or I could just click on the number and replace it with another number, tap Enter on the keyboard, and the change is made. I'll undo that. In addition to changing the font size, I could change the font type just by clicking here, and I have a huge collection of font options. I can also change the font color, let's say to blue or to orange. I can make this text bolded, italicized. I can underline the text if I want to. I can strike through the text. I can force this text to be all uppercase if I want to. Or I could capitalize each word. Or I could go back to the typical sentence case. There are several other font formatting options here on the ribbon, so I hope you'll check those out, including these buttons for quickly increasing the font size or decreasing the font size. Another way to format characters, words, or paragraphs in Microsoft Word is to use this dialog launcher or launch button. So with some text selected, I can click that launch button, and here I get every possible option that I have in Microsoft Word. There's the font types, font style, font size, strike through, superscript, subscript, all caps, and there are also text effects that I can go into to adjust the text fill, text outline, and we also have advanced options. Once you've made all of the changes that you'd like to make, and I'm making several here, you can click OK, and those changes are added to your document. Hopefully they're an improvement instead of making the document worse. Next, let's look at how to set up tab stops in Microsoft Word. There are two basic ways to add tab stops. In this video, I'll just show you the easiest method. And the first thing you'll want to do is make sure that you have the rulers showing up above your document and to the left of your document. If you don't see those, you need to go to the View tab, and here in the Show group, just make sure that ruler is checked. And now that I have my rulers showing up above and to the left of my page, the next step is to select all of my text, everything in my document. The reason I have to do this is because I already have text in my document. If it were completely blank, this wouldn't be necessary. But I'm going to hold Control, tap A, that selects everything. Now that everything's selected, I can go here to this button at the left of the top ruler, and it's got a symbol there. That's the left tab symbol. If I click on it, it changes to other types of tab stops. But I'm going to start with the left tab stop. With that selected, now I can click anywhere on this ruler, exactly in the places where I want there to be tab stops. So maybe there, and there. Now, if I make a mistake with a tab stop, I can remove it by clicking on it and pulling it off the ruler. Let's now add a center tab stop. Just by clicking here, that's the center tab stop. And then I can just click on the ruler where I want that to be. I can click this again to get a right tab stop and add some more of those. Now, if I click on my document, everything gets deselected. But notice, if I now go to a paragraph and tab, it will go to my first tab stop, then to my second, and so on. If you want to learn more about inserting tabs, please watch my videos dedicated to that topic. Now let's look at some other ways that I can format my paragraphs. If I select a paragraph, I can go to the Home tab, and you'll notice there's a paragraph group, and I could use this to center the text, or change the alignment to be right aligned or left aligned. I could scoot the entire paragraph to the right using this button, or to the left using this button. If I want to, I can add borders to my paragraph. Let's say I want borders around the outside of the paragraph. I can click there, and now I have a nice border around it. I'm going to undo that. I also have some color options. I could put in a background color for the paragraph, and there are other options that you can explore as well. But I want you to notice this button here, the Paragraph Settings Launch button. If I click that, I get a dialog box where I can adjust things like the line spacing. So right now, I'm using multiple line spacing in this document. But what if my supervisor or my teacher asks me to use double spacing? This is where I would make that change. Double spacing. If I click OK, now that paragraph has double spacing. If I needed to change the entire document, I would hold Control, tap A, and do the same thing again, switching to double spacing. Click OK. Now the entire document has double spacing. Some other powerful paragraph settings that we have in this paragraph dialog box include indentation. So right now, the first line in a paragraph will be indented by 1/2 inch. If I want to adjust that, I certainly can. And I also have some other spacing options. In addition to line spacing, I can change the space between paragraphs. So right now, in this particular document, there's 0 extra space above this paragraph, but there's 8 points worth of space after the paragraph. That's why you can see here there's extra space between the two paragraphs. So I could adjust that. Let's bring it down to just 6 point. Click OK. And it was subtle, but you could probably see that now these two paragraphs are a little closer together. So it's easy to miss this launch button, but I hope you'll check it out and see what other paragraph formatting options you have there. In this next segment of Microsoft Word for Beginners Complete Course, we're going to learn how to create and edit tables in your Word documents. So here I am at the bottom of this Word document that I've been working with, and I would like to insert a table. So of course, I go to the Insert tab, I look on the Insert ribbon for Table, there it is, and I can click, and then I have several different ways that I can add a table to this document. I could go down here to the bottom of the list of options, and I could insert a table that's a calendar table, and there are several other kinds of calendar tables. I could insert a tabular list, a table with subheads. There's all of these quick tables that you can choose from and just click to add them to your document. In addition to those quick tables, we also have just Insert Table. And by clicking that, I get a dialog box where I can select the number of columns and rows for my table. And there's some other options as well. And then I could click OK to insert the table. The most common way that people insert tables in Microsoft Word is just to go here to Table, and then you just put your mouse on this grid, indicating how many columns and how many rows you would like in your table. I'll go with 3 columns and 4 rows. After I clicked, Word inserted that table just the way I wanted it, with 3 columns and 4 rows. So let's say I want to create kind of an address book. I could just click in the first cell in the upper left corner. I could type name. I will tap the tab button to move over to the next column. Here I'll put address, tab, and phone number. Now what if I decide I would like to add another column? Maybe I wish I would have had 4 columns and that 4th column could be for email addresses. Well, what I could do is click somewhere in my 3rd column and then right-click and choose Insert Column to the right. Now I've got a new column for email addresses. Now, as I enter data into this table, let's say I decide I need more than just 3 entries. When I get to the last cell in the lower right corner of this table, all I have to do is tap the Tab button and I get a new row. So the table just keeps expanding as needed so that I can put in as much information as I want. Now, it's probably a good idea for me to differentiate between the column headings or titles here at the top and the rest of the information. So I can just click and drag to select that first row, and then I could go here to the Table Design tab, and here in the Table Styles group, there's some options. I could click to shade that top row differently, and I could still use the same font options that I have on the Home tab in the Font group. I could make the text bold, and over here in the Paragraph group, I could make it centered. So those are some nice ways to format your table so that it stands out and the information is easier to understand. I'm going to select my table again because I want you to see that in the Table Design tab, we also have something called Table Styles. And if you click this button here, it will expand and you'll see all of the many options that you have available. So this is another way to format your Word tables. I'll go with this option here, and now this table is going to look great in my document. Now there are times when you want to convert a table into simple text, and also vice versa. So if you select a table, and then go to the Table Layout tab. Notice that this tab is different than the regular Layout tab. This Layout tab is specific just to tables. While I'm here in this Table Layout tab, I want you to see that there are buttons for inserting columns to the right, to the left, inserting rows below or above, so those are good buttons to be aware of. There's also some powerful options here, but for now, this is what I'm looking for. In the data group, there's a button that says convert to text. So I click, and this table is going to be turned into simply text. But how do I want the different items in this table separated? Do I want them to be separated by tabs, commas, or other things? I'll just go with tabs, click OK, and there is my text outside of a table. Now, what about going back the other direction? If I click and drag to highlight that text, I can go to Insert, Table, Convert Text to Table, click OK, and now it's back in table format. And even though I don't recommend this, you could click and drag to highlight just about any text, click Insert, Table, Convert Text to Table, click OK, and it would take that text and put it into a table format. So I hope you'll explore the many ways in which you can use tables in Microsoft Word to add more data, more information to your Word documents. In this next segment of Microsoft Word for Beginners, the complete course, we're going to learn all about modifying the page layout in Microsoft Word. If you look at the tabs up here above the ribbon, I bet you can guess which tab to click in order to find the page layout options. You would just go here to Layout, and I have several important layout options here. One of the more important options is this, Orientation. If I want to, I can switch the orientation of this Word document from Portrait to Landscape. Now you can see the pages are wider than they are tall. I, of course, could switch back, and it's right back to Portrait Orientation. In this same tab, I can also change the size of the paper. Let's say I'm going to be printing using legal size paper. I can select that here, and it changes the length of these pages. I can switch back. I can also work with columns. This is another place where I can change the spacing between paragraphs, and there's some other options to look through. I want to draw special attention to this launch button here. If you click on the Page Setup Launch button, it gives you options for changing the page margins. Right now, I have a 1-inch top page margin, and actually the bottom and left and right margins are also all 1 inch. If I don't want to have that big of a page margin, I could lower this, let's say to 1/2 inch on each side, click OK, and watch the margins here at the left and right. Now they've been adjusted. I'm going to jump back into the Page Setup dialog box. Now, of course, you probably noticed this. I could have changed the margins here as well. But sometimes this Page Setup dialog box is a nicer way to make some of these changes. You can just see many of the options all together and make your choices. I'm going to switch now to the Paper tab. Here I can adjust the size of the paper, and I also have a Layout tab. So this Layout tab and ribbon and this dialog box are where you should look for some of the most important page layout options. Next, let's look at adding page numbers to the bottom of the pages, and also header and footer information. So I'm going to go up to the top of my document, and I'll click on Insert, and if you look on the Insert ribbon over here on the right where it says Header and Footer, you can select page number and decide where you want the page number to be displayed. You can see there are several different options. I tend to like to put the page number at the bottom of each page, and I like it to be centered. So I'm going to select that, and now I have a page number on each page. If you don't want the page number to be on the first page, you could check this box that says Different First Page, and now when you go up to look at the first page, there is no page number. Now, when I added page numbers to this document, it took me into the header and footer options and to the ribbon where those options are stored. So now I can just click, let's say on the first page header, and I could type in a message there at the top in the header. I'm going to click Close Header and Footer, and I'll go back up to page 1. You can see there's my header. I could have accomplished the same thing by clicking on the Insert tab, and instead of clicking page number, I could have gone directly to header, and there's some options there. Or footer, there's options there. I'm going to jump back into the header options, edit header, just so that you can see that it's also possible to insert not just text into the header, and it works the same way with the footer, but in addition to text, you can also add pictures, quick parts, and if you want to learn more about quick parts, I'll make a video about them, but they can be very useful. But I could also insert things like the date and time. If I click that button and select a date and time format, the current date would always appear whenever I open up this document. And when I save it, that date and time will also be saved. I could also insert document information like author, file name, path name, etc. I'm happy with these selections, so I'm going to close the header and footer and get back into my document. We have two more important page layout features to cover in this segment of the video. The first of those is we need to learn how to create page breaks. So for example, let's say this document is going to end up being multiple pages in length, maybe 20 or 30 pages. I might want to start using chapters. So this could be chapter 1, and I could format this a little better if I wanted to. But let's say chapter 1 ends partway through page 2. Maybe it ends here. In that case, I might want to start chapter 2, not immediately, but maybe on the next page. To do that, I could do it the hard way by tapping enter on the keyboard like 20 times to move the rest of that text to the next page, but there's a much easier way to do that. I'll put in a page break. Mark the point at which one page ends and the next page begins. So I'll click there, and you could see what it did. It scooted everything below my page break down to the next page. So now we have chapter 1 that begins here, and it continues until halfway down page 2, and then I have blank space, and there at the top of page 3, we can put chapter 2. So I think you'll find page breaks to be very useful in several different situations. And finally, let's look at how you could insert a cover page for your document. If you go to the Insert tab, here at the left, we have a Pages group, and if I click there, you can see there's an option to add a cover page. I'll select that. There are several different layouts to choose from for my cover page. I kind of like this one here, so I'll just click on it, and it is added to my document as a cover page. All I need to do at this point is update the information, and now I have a very nice, attractive cover page for my document. So I think you'll find the more you use Microsoft Word, the more you'll come to rely on some of these layout features and tools to help make your document look more professional and more attractive. Okay, on to our next segment of Microsoft Word for Beginners, Complete Course. And in this segment, we're going to look at the Review tab and some of the powerful things that you can use it for. Microsoft Word is, of course, all about language. We're adding text, we're adding sentences, paragraphs, we're adding pages and pages of words into our documents. But as humans, we're going to make mistakes, and fortunately, we have this Review tab to help us with that. Here at the very left of the Review ribbon, we have the editor. I'll go ahead and click Editor, and it opens this panel at the right. Now, if you have older versions of Microsoft Word, you may not see the editor. Instead, you might see a spell check option, and a grammar check, and a thesaurus, etc. But this editor is a fairly new feature in Microsoft Word that is very powerful and helpful. You can see it gives me a score of 88% for my document. That's taking into account my word choice, my spelling, conciseness, etc. So the editor does have some spelling suggestions for me, and I can click there to see what they are. Word doesn't think that this particular adjective is a real word, but Word here is suggesting some alternatives to me. If I'm not sure if this is the right word or not, I can click here to have the word read aloud to me.
Alfalfas, similar to lucernes.
And if I'm confident that that's the right word, I could change all instances of this and turn it into alfalfas. If I browse down the panel a little further, notice that there's an option to ignore this suggestion. It is possible that the word I typed in is correct, it's just not recognized by Microsoft Word. So I might want to ignore it once, or ignore all cases of it. And if it's a word that you're going to be using in lots of documents, like maybe it's the name of your small business or of your school, and Word thinks it's misspelled, why not add it to the dictionary? That way it will never again be considered a misspelled word. I'm just going to select